Okay, we will reconvene into regular session. There were no actions taken on any of the executive session items, so we will move back into our regular agenda onto item number 10. Mayor Pro Tem Orchard, you have the floor.
All right. So a couple of points of clarification that I want to make sure that everyone understands that I met with Chief Jones and Herman Larkin last Friday to throw around some ideas of what are their ideas, because I've heard several ideas from the public, some different ideas from council, and I wanted to see if they had any. That was not a let me give them their requirements. Let me give them what is the contract outline or anything of such. So, truthfully, out of that, nothing new came out of that. There's also been talk of, well, just sign the contract. You understand, there's not a contract to sign until you have details put into a contract. Two parties have to come together to find some type of mutual ground. So that's what I've heard tonight from several people and citizens and people who have contacted me is, hey, why can't you sit down? So here's what's in a forum, a public forum. I'm going to ask council if they are willing to sit down and discuss the contract to be solidified prior to January 1st. Is the council in agreement that there would be people here to do that?
Are you doing a roll call?
No, does anyone have an objection from the council that we would not sit down with the fire department?
No, I'll do whatever it takes.
Of course.
Yes.
I don't think that's ever been a question.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask the fire department. Is there any objection with sitting down prior to, very quickly, because you have a December 5th meeting, in order to, that's just so you know, their membership has a meeting every month to talk about things that need to be done. Other Tuesdays are training, right? So business stuff is Tuesday, which is December the 5th. So we need to make sure that we have some type of, a contract for them to go to the membership, vote on it, and go forth. Now, two things need to happen with this. One is that if things are continuing to go on, it doesn't happen by December 5th, just as I would ask the city council to have a special meeting, I would ask the fire department to have a special held meeting in order to get that done. So that way it's not a timing of, well, we missed the deadline, okay? So, Mr. Jones, you please do so.
So, no, we're not opposed to talking about the contract, haven't been. I would say that to be most productive, it would be best if we continue to deal with Mayor Pro Tem Orchard. We had a good exchange of ideas and thoughts, and I think that could continue. Unfortunately, the hatred that has been spewed by some of the members on council and the mayor is unacceptable. And I don't have to lower myself and subject myself to that kind of treatment. So I would ask that if you really want to move forward, that we do it in the most productive way. We're not opposed to entertaining options. We have not received any yet, but you're more than welcome to put stuff on paper and send it to us for our consideration as well. We've given you our options, as we discussed, standard T's and C's and things like that, what you're paying for. We have no problem with that. Micromanagement of the fire department, that's where we're going to have some discussion. So we're more than willing to work this out. But there's been a lot of unsolicited hatred that should have never been. And it's unacceptable.
Okay. And Chief Jones, I respectfully understand where you're coming from. I can't do this on my own without counsel there. Now, well, I will say is that just as we had when we first started trying to get this done a couple months ago, and we sat down and had a civil meeting, that if it's anything, just as I talked with counsel and you and Mr. Larkin, that if it's anything other than that, then the meeting stops and I'll walk out myself. That this is not the time for someone to spew anything that is disrespectful. But we're coming down to a crunch time, and especially now that there's a difference now of county. I mean, there's just different things. Just like on Friday, we just had just different things. We're just bantering, back and forth, and again, we came up with nothing, and I didn't expect to come up with nothing. I don't think you did either, except that more understanding of one another, but I can't now then come back because now it's third party. It could be my personal opinion. Yeah, I have to have other council members present, and just like I don't want just you. I want to make sure you have others there in leadership roles, so that way it's a clear conversation.
Is there a problem with putting things on paper and send them to me?
That's good. It's a delay. That
A delay.
just
That
yes.
would be quicker than trying to schedule a meeting. I mean, you could shoot something to me tomorrow morning. If you guys have had a lot of time to come up with your sticking points. We certainly know ours, what we will not accept. So if you could send me something tomorrow morning in writing, I can immediately reply to you and tell you what will be accepted based on what the members have already said, and at least get to that point. So it'd be much faster to do. That's
Okay.
how contracts are done all the time.
All right. So just, and that way I'm not putting words in your mouth. Is that's the way that you want to go? You won't have a sit down with other than myself.
The department would rather deal with you specifically.
Hang on, the mic's off again.
I think it would be more productive. This is a timely matter. A lot of times pass and nothing's happened. So to be in the best interest of time, in the best interest of relationship between the city and the fire department, I think that would be the best course of action. But specifically, sending us something for us to look at would be the first step.
Okay. The second part to that is if there's still, negotiations going on past the December 5th, do you have the ability to call a special meeting that would take 10 minutes to rectify and vote in December?
Excellent.
Okay. All right. Again, there's two sides, to this, and I can't make it, come to the table, nor am I going to, so.
Are you here
Yeah.
The very bottom.
Sorry, the mic's not
The mic,
working.
I'm getting notes all over here, the mic is off. Because apparently I can't see a red light.
So I'm sorry if you didn't hear me, but are y'all here tonight to discuss some of what you want, since, that you haven't arrived at what you want to put into the contract? Is that the goal tonight, for y'all to discuss what you want to put into the contract?
Well, so tonight, for me, is to get to what this contract is going to look like. If we want to start getting into, those, like the Ts and Cs and stuff, then yes. And if you want to also tell us what your, deal points or killer, non-negotiables or whatever, we certainly, that can help us too, in that. So
Okay.
if you got something that you want to talk about, let's do it, man.
Well, I can certainly tell you what the membership has voted on so far, because we've heard, various things mentioned, ideas thrown about. So at the November 7th meeting, the membership voted on several issues regarding billing customers. There was a motion to not entertain any type of billing scenario, and a second, and it was voted and approved by all. So if we receive a contract that is designed around us billing people, the membership is not interested in that type of option.
Okay.
We
I-
did,
I need to ask a question about that. Is it-
Okay.
Just wait.
I'm sorry.
Adrian's got a quick question for you.
May I ask, like, why did you come up with that voting? Is it because that you don't have the ability to, like a side party to go and bill? Is there a reasoning behind it? Or-
Well, there's a lot of reasons. One is you're making fire service more expensive because you've now introduced administrative costs. You could look at it and say it could possibly strangle the fire department into non-existence. How are we going to bill Medicare or Medicaid? There's insurance billing for health reasons. Rockwall EMS bills people all the time against their health insurance. There's not a billing that's set up to say, okay, you have insurance for a call on your fire alarm, or you have a call for a grass fire that your neighbor started, or anything like that. So these are people paying out of their pocket. It's a public relations problem that we don't want to have, to be the bad guy that bills someone after a loss of a family member because we simply have to make payroll next month. We need to assure the citizens that the fire department has the funding and will be there for the year. You're asking us to commit to a year's contract and assure you that we will respond to those calls. And billing is a little bit like fundraising. You just don't know what you're going to get. You can bill insurance companies for NVAs. Some of them will pay a little bit, some of them will pay nothing. So it's like your building permits. You've budgeted X amount of dollars for building permits. You really have no idea how many houses are going to be built. You hope it's that many, you hope it's more. But ultimately, you don't know. And that is why our practice is not to budget on fundraising. And that's what I would put billing in the category of, because it's possibly more expense to get paid than what you hope to get.
Okay.
And just so we're clear, because we talked about this before, that was something that was talked about, and that was billing those in unincorporated areas, not inside
Or billing the city.
Or billing
The
directly to the
concept
city
of-
for, right.
Right, the concept of billing against the fire contract.
Billing unincorporated residents, billing the city. I just
Right.
want to make sure that
No billing.
That's
Right.
the understanding
We have plenty to do.
of there, okay?
One of the other things that we voted on was, I know there had been questions about the 6-year plan. The membership voted to suspend the 6-year plan. We will continue to long-term plan within the fire department, but at this juncture, we are not entertaining any movement on that 6-year plan at this time. And I want you to understand that, you know, this is the membership, and it's similar to the council. When they vote, that's it. Doesn't really matter what I think. I don't have a vote. I happen to agree with that one, but that's the way the membership voted.
Okay.
I don't know that it's still an active issue, but the membership voted to not entertain any transfer of apparatus to the city for ownership. And I will tell you, we have not voted on it, but the feedback that I've gotten as far as not paying the fire department in full at the beginning of the year has not been well received, whether it's quarterly payments or the billing scenario. As has always been done in the past, you know, we expect to have those funds early part of January.
Okay, so let me understand this. You're saying that you're not interested in quarterly payments. You would rather just have all of the money lump sum in the month of January?
Well, it's not that I would rather have it. That's what that's what our requirement is going to be,
Okay.
as always. So those are a few options that, to help y'all move things along, I went ahead and presented to the department, so that, just to give you feedback, so that you can, you know, go whatever direction you would like to go.
Okay. Anything else would you like to bring up about?
Well, I'll say this. You know, we have no problem with putting standard T's and C's in the contract. You know, you're paying money for a service, and if the contract defines that service, that's fine. I don't think the membership is going to be interested in a constant battle with the mayor or council members or anybody wanting to argue about how we achieve that work. I know that there's been some talk about putting response time requirements in, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, because I like it, because it gives us a benchmark. The problem that I will tell you at this time, and I discussed that with you, Mayor Pro Tem Orchard, is that we do not pay for dispatch. Therefore, we are a low priority for the Rockwall Sheriff's Department as far as worrying about whether our timestamps are correct. If they're running a call, running a chase or something like that, and they have to page us out, they may wait till they finish doing what they're doing to actually timestamp it. If we get on scene and they're busy doing something else, you know, we take a back seat to their primary business, which is operating their sheriff's officers. So you'll see, I can provide numerous reports where it may look like it took us 15 minutes to get en route, but only 2 seconds to get there. Calls where it took us an inordinate amount of time to clear from the scene, and when in actuality we cleared 2 hours earlier than that. They simply got busy, forgot to hit the button, and I shouldn't say button, because it is a couple of mouse clicks to actually do it. It's not real simple, but there's errors. And my only point is, if you're talking about financial penalties and all that stuff, and call time requirements, that's great, but if we don't have valid information, it will be a non-stop argument, and a lot of time wasted. Instead of moving forward, we'll be wasting time trying to defend ourselves. Now, the option to correct that is to amend our budget and pay for dispatch with another municipality, such as Rockwall PD, or buy the software that the Sheriff's Department uses, the laptops and the air cards, to put in our apparatus, so that we can actually check ourselves en route, check ourselves on scene, and clear ourselves from calls, and know that we have the correct response times. So I would just say that it's a great goal. I don't know if we're there yet. And I don't want this contract to be the starting point for further friction between the city and the fire department.
Because you're right. I do want response times in there, as we talked about. Again, there's, and we discussed of even last year, hey, this contract has to change because the amount of money now that we're talking about, just like with any vendor I deal with, there has to be checks and balances in there. So what I guess I need to figure out is if I say, all right, because this really comes from the fire department, that it takes 6 minutes to get anywhere inside. So let's say you had to meet an average of 6 minutes.
Well, I think that was misconstrued. We've mentioned before that it takes an average of 6 minutes for us to get from home to the station. I know, maybe somebody said something else, but I know that number's been thrown out, that's the average time that it adds to a call when we come from home versus leaving the station.
Okay. So let's carry on of whatever that number is. What is it that, let's say we just have, for this contract, we say, okay, we're just going to sit down quarterly and review stats, okay? And let's say it is a 6 minute, average response time. What is it that we're going to review that against? Yeah, because I understand this, the sheriffs, and I've personally have experienced that.
Right.
Because before there was paid personnel, after call runs, you would get a sheet, and then the next day you would have to put it in and stuff, and there was not as accurate times from the sheriff department as what needs to be, so without this other expense, because I don't think we're going to budget anything more, especially this year for computers, air cards, and all that. What matrix can we use to balance that?
We've looked at the possibility of having an app created for our phones to be able to, hopefully on that call somebody has their phone out and they can say, hey, okay, we're going en route, and just something to clock us. So
Right.
that when we get the call sheet from the sheriff's department, we can say, oh, okay, that call, the dispatch time is correct, the en route time is correct, oh, but they didn't have us on scene until 5 minutes after we were already there. That's the only way I know to combat something like that. It is better with some dispatchers than others, and people come and people go. There's just nothing consistent. And I can show you that have response times improved from when we started staffing the station, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Absolutely, I can show you. There's not enough bad information to offset that. But if you want to say, okay, we're going to penalize you if you don't meet this requirement, why, I can't agree to that, because I'm just going to. There's a good possibility that I'm going to end up on the short end of the stick through no fault of our own. I can tell you that whether we're at home or we're at the station, the commitment of these individuals is to get wherever it is we have to be as quickly as possible.
No question.
And
no
and
question.
it's selfish on our part a lot of times, because if it's a grass fire, it's going to be smaller. If it's a structure fire, it's going to be smaller. If it's a wreck, with a person bleeding out, the chance of saving them is better. It's always better the quicker you get it done, you get there and you get it done. So the incentive is there for us. I don't think you have to incentivize the fire department to try and do a good job. And I asked you, what complaints have you had about the fire department? And you said none.
Right.
So I don't want to create issues where there aren't issues. And we
Right, but just as with, other vendors that I, again, personally, professionally deal with,
Yep.
they may not have in history ever had anything, but I have to put a matrix there. So there has to be, there's going to be something in this contract that has to deal with,
Right.
response times, personnel, timing of that personnel, stuff like that, and this is kind of why the sit-down is why I'm still trying to get to that, is so, because, yes, I see, because I spent 6 years on the volunteer fire department, the inside of certain things and reports and all that, but,
I'll
me
ta-
relaying what it is today, because I haven't been on
Yeah.
the department for 3 years, is different.
And if we can create a good solid method of recording our times and matching them up, I have no problem correcting. We often have to correct our times on reports, because if you're too far out, you exceed the amount of minutes that you have to respond to a call. Now, there are cases with bad weather or distance. We've run mutual aid years ago all the way to Quinlan. So there's times when you exceed that 20-minute time limit. But if it's not right, we will at least note it in the report. We may put down the time that the sheriff's department said it was, but we will note that we do not agree with this timestamp. I'm not opposed to trying to track our times. We like to do it to try and show improvement and give ourselves a good reference point. It's just very hard to do that when you're responding to an emergency. That is not what your primary goal is to worry about what your watch says or hitting a button on a phone or anything like that. So I think it's a good step. It's a step in the right direction. I think it's something that you have to temper with the fact that right now the things are not in place to 100% accurately do that. And it's something for the city to work towards. If you want to increase the budget the year after and say, okay, we're gonna pay for dispatch service from another agency, and since we're paying for it, we can actually put our finger on them and say, hey, you're not getting this stuff done quickly and accurately.
Okay. All right, so just, again, food for thought then on that. Anything else?
I mean, not knowing what all y'all are wanting to put into it, I really don't know.
Okay. And I don't know if I can really get into this or not, because it's on the next item of the Rockwall County, with what they have now contracted directly with you.
Members, as a point of order, items 10 through 16 are on the table.
Okay, thank you. So, again,
15
that's
or
why
16?
I'm sorry, what?
10 through 16, sorry, 15.
They're not on the table. I'm not tabling the items. They are up for discussion. Sorry about that.
I'll talk about the information technology service plan, but I can't tell you a lot
You
about
can't
it.
give us very much.
So 10 through 15.
Yeah, 10 through 15, thank you. So, yes, yeah, that's not,
Sorry, corrected to 15.
I wasn't at the Commissioners Court. I had a client meeting I had to be in. I heard the very last of it, of that agenda item 13. When it comes up as archived, I will listen to the whole thing. My only thought, and again, this is my thought. The county now has made it clear, because for all these years, they said, absolutely no way, we can never, ever contract directly with the volunteer fire department. Now somehow they figured out they can. Not saying good thing, bad thing, I'm just saying now it's a different thing. So if the county just says, okay, volunteer fire department, we're gonna give you 67.5, and I need you to protect my unincorporated area out there. And their agreement, if it's as any other agreement that they've done in the past, it doesn't stipulate times or whatever, right? So as a city, Now, we're saying, okay, you're a vendor, you're a private company, we're gonna come in, we're gonna hire you, and we're gonna say, we have $329,000, that we're going to spend, and we're going to contract with you.
Sure, sure.
Again, I'm just, among meetings and driving time and stuff, I'm trying to put these two things together. Is there a way now? Because if the county, because I think we can go back to the county and say, hey, don't do it till the end of January, do the whole thing. Give them, that way you can get your money all up front and all. Is there a way that the city can contract with the fire department with a different level of service and expectations than what the county is expecting with what they're paying?
Can you give me an example of what you're talking about?
So the biggest item in your budget is personnel, okay? Which was somewhere in previous council was agreed upon that they wanted to have personnel 7 to 7, Monday through Saturday. Now we're looking at Monday through Sunday, which is the $9,000 difference between last year and this year. And that was because that gives us better response, better times when we can make sure that during the working hours that most volunteers are out, that we have guaranteed response time.
Right.
So is there something that we say, okay, as a city, forget, you're kind of taken care of on the unincorporated area, and we kind of wash our hands. We don't, that way we don't get in the middle of that. And that was kind of the irritating part of this whole thing, is that we're in the middle of that, and there's really not probably a reason we have to be. So is there something, an idea of that? Again, I haven't talked to anybody about this. I was just driving here, that we could come in and say, hey, NCF, VFD, we want your services, and here's the services for the city that we need.
You can do that.
Okay.
I can't tell you whether or not we'll, I'm not sure exactly where you're going. I'm thinking what you're basically saying is you want the citizens of the county to have lower service, to make sure they have lower service than the city. Is that what you're saying?
Then say lower service. I'm just saying, the unincorporated area that you're being paid for now is out of the equation.
You will already have a contract. Let's just scenario. We won't have to do a contract with the county so that you can do business in unincorporated. The county can do business with whoever they would like to hire as a service provider. You are that service provider. So it will be a total separate contract. We're completely out.
Right.
So then we have our city contract with you.
Right.
That's where we're talking about the level of service that we're referring to is the.
Well, not necessarily level of service. It's just, if we paid you the same $67.5, there would be no paid personnel, or if it was, it'd be very little.
No, it costs more than that to run the department just for the city.
Okay, so by saying, okay, we're going to go ahead and pay the $329,000, does that? Again, we're contracting with a vendor, and when I contract with a vendor, I don't think about the other things that vendor does or whoever else they contract with. It's contracted for a specific purpose.
Right.
So if I'm contracted for a specific purpose, then I need to make sure that whatever that is available to me and my company. Okay? So if we're paying the $329,000, you know, are there things that is going to say, okay, yes, the city is getting what the $329,000 worth?
Are you asking me that if the pager went off back to back and one call was a city call and one call was a county call, would we prioritize the city call over the county call? Is that what you're asking me?
No, because that's a function of the fire department. I don't.
Okay.
That I'm not going to
So
tell
I guess
you
I'm
how-
not following you. I mean, you're going to develop a contract with T's and C's in it.
Right,
Says we want 2 personnel at the station Monday through Friday, or Monday through Saturday, or Monday through Sunday.
Right.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You'll respond to all calls for service in the city. Outside of those hours, you'll cover the district with volunteers. You know, so what is it that, I guess I'm not understanding what it is that you're asking about.
okay. So let's say personnel.
Okay?
Let's say it is personnel, and we say, okay, right now, the $329,000 is for 2 people at the station, 7 days a week for whatever 12-hour period.
Correct.
That is, because we know it's 7 to 7 right now, but if it needs to move based off of needs, it does. That if, let's say there is a call that you have to run and outside because you're contracted, you know, so you got to run a call, that there would still be personnel here in the city to be able to handle the city call.
Well, of course, it's our standard operating guidelines call for personnel to come and stand by if they're available. There's many times when we have more personnel than 2 at the station because just out of you know, being good-natured, guys like to come by and just hang out and see if they can help with anything. But, you know, if they're available, yes, they would come and stand by. We could say this thing about 2 calls in the city, could we not? Call happens in the city, 2 guys leave the station. What if there's another call in the city?
Right.
Well, you would hope that there's people that can come and stand by.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we could say, well, because one of those calls was in the county, suddenly that's wrong to not have people able to stand by and at the station for the city. The same thing could happen for the city. We could have 2 calls in the county. You can expend the resources of any public safety agency if enough stuff happens. We are not alone in this. Every fire department in Rockwall County services a county area. They have a higher cost of operation by far than our department. You know, Royce City has volunteers. They run those calls. Chief Bell and the inspector, they run those calls. When Fate's paid personnel leave that station, that's it for fire service. They're in the same boat we are. But that's why we have other options in place, like calling for mutual aid or to reprioritize our call. If we're on scene and the EMS is on scene and we've transferred that patient to a higher level of care, we can clear that scene if we have to. Heath did it on a grass fire that I showed up on a couple of weeks ago. They were called for mutual aid. They showed up. They were putting out fire, and they said, Chief, we've got an MVA we've got to go to back in our city. Can we go ahead and leave? Absolutely. So every fire department deals with this issue. You're not alone. Our job is to mitigate risk, and that includes mitigating the risk of what happens when we leave. When we go to Smoke Monkey and eat lunch, we take an engine and a brush truck. Why? We're mitigating the risk that we might get a call for an apparatus we don't have with us. So if there's somebody at the station, that's great. But if not, we try to think of the worst case scenario and mitigate that risk.
Okay. So your standard operating procedure is to have, if those leave outside the station, that somebody comes and stands by. That's a kind of a standing.
Sure.
So
Oftentimes you need more than 2 personnel on that very call.
right. So based off of that, and you may or may not know this, right? what's the percentage of time do you think that doesn't happen?
That we don't have anybody to show up?
That someone doesn't backfill?
Oh, it's, I would say a very, very small amount of the time. I mean, there's almost always at least one person. I'm at the station a lot during the week, and I work from home. So the likelihood of absolutely nobody being there is probably pretty slim. But unless you want to pay for 4 personnel, 2 of which would be committed to doing nothing but standing by at the station, everybody has to do what they got to do.
Yeah, no, and that wasn't, so, because one of the things that I want to make sure that we also, talk about is when I put in Ts and Cs, and this may be different in this contract, there's always usually a percentage of, so if I hire a call center and I say, okay, you have to answer, 85% of the calls within 30 seconds,
Yeah.
then that has that leeway because peak time, because of other things there.
Sure.
So if, as I'm kind of sitting here thinking about this, I say, okay, if we say as a city, we want to provide this service for our citizens, if the backfill works 85% of the time, then you've met that matrix, which I'm that's why I asked that question. I wasn't because I was trying to get to anything quizzical. It was all these things of whether we say 6 minutes, 10 minutes response time, it's always in my mind, again, just because that's the contracts I'm used to deal with, is a percent. Because we know that nothing is 100% in life.
Now, my percent may be different than your percent. Have we not seen that? I'm just saying. I don't want to get into a year-long argument over statistics, so I will tell you this.
Okay, well, no.
If I tell you that this is the percentage, that
Right.
is the percentage. I will not entertain an argument every day of the week for the rest of 2018.
Understand.
Okay?
That would be that's why we'd want that percentage.
Yeah, I think it's a whimsical number, because if it can't happen, it can't happen. You see, you're not paying those guys to not go to work and hang around in case you have a call and they need to go stand by at the station. So, you can attach a percentage to anything, but that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Because if it can't happen, it can't happen. I will tell you honestly that we make every effort to provide that backup at the station for our own safety. So if it doesn't happen, it's simply because everybody else was out for whatever reason. That may mean that there's 3 guys in Rockwall. Can they come back? Yep. And usually they say, okay, I'm headed back in case something else happens.
Right.
So I will tell you that at some point you guys have got to trust the fire department. We have done a great job for this community for a long time, long before you were here, long before a lot of us were here.
Oh, yeah.
And it is not except for the people who came before me that we are where we are today. And so at some point, the insinuations that the fire department is not doing this or doing that, you got to just trust that we are doing the best job that we can do with what we have been provided.
Chief Jones, I just want to make sure that you know that none of us has ever said anything that you guys are not doing your job. In fact, I think that it's an amazing thing that you guys do to actually go head on into a fire. I'm not that person. You guys are amazing to even do that. You're heroes in my book. The fact that you have to get certifications, all these different things, you didn't just get a piece of paper and sign it. Y'all had to do the due diligence of the work. So the only thing that I'm concerned with at this point is to make sure that we get an updated contract and to make sure that we put stuff in writing. That's all.
I appreciate the comments, but I've also read the social media. So thank you, though.
Okay. And my my going through this talking point is contractual. Nothing to do with department or anything like that, and I understand friction. Right? There's no denying it. There's friction. If there wasn't, we would be much further along in this process. And I wish there wasn't. I think that Justin Hood talked about. It seems that every, Rockwall, they're in Dallas, there's always services and the council, and, money's the root of all evil, is true, and because it's always about a budget, it's always about the, this and that. I really wish it wasn't. But like Justin Hood said, it's not unique to this. And I think we need to understand that it's not unique. Now, social media, whatever it is, that the other cities, I have no idea, but what I want to try to get to is getting to a point where we have fire service by January 1st. First and foremost, I am a citizen of this city. Before I am Mayor Pro Tem. I've been here since '06. I spent 6 years on the volunteer fire department because I set my backfield on fire and was recruited. I thought, look at these guys. Look, man, that's pretty cool. What you do this all the time? Well, no, we're volunteering. Well, how do you do that? Come up on a Tuesday. We'll tell you about it. And then next thing you know, I'm in the midst of it. And so, but that's how I served the community at that point in time. This is how I'm going to serve the community at this point in time. But the first thing is I'm a citizen. I've got a family. I've got a son with special needs that does crazy, dangerous things that could need medical attention. So for someone to think that this is not important, whether that's in my city or my friends outside the city, is 100% incorrect. There's nothing more I want to get done. That's why I said I want to be the liaison. Not because I want control, not because I know better, not because I have better ideas, because I want to get something done. And for men not to be able to sit down and talk about these things, about how to keep me safe, how to keep my kids safe, I think is unacceptable. Understand, people don't like people. You run a business. I run a business. There's people I deal with every day I don't like. But I got to deal with them because either I pay them money or they pay me money. And things have gotten out of hand. Whether social media, hearsay, a stupid postcard, scaring the citizens. That's ridiculous. To sit there and tell somebody, the council is not going to sign a contract. Unbelievable. So don't sit here and think that we're not trying to get something done. And I'm sorry that I had an outburst, and it's not directed at anybody personally. It's the whole situation. We've got to come to a resolution. We've got to figure this out. We've got to figure it out quickly. Chief Jones, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We've got the information here. You may be asked by other council members to step back up with this, but as far as me, I am done.
I just have a question. October 10th, you were here. We talked about sitting down and negotiating.
Yeah.
Then a few days later, when Wayne tried to organize that, your response was, here's the three options, take them or leave them. I clarified with Wayne, are they saying that this is the only options that we have? And the answer was, well, unless you want to give us more money.
Yep.
So explain to me why. Why you're not, why somehow we're portrayed as not willing to sit down, when in fact, we had assumed we were going to sit down
Yeah.
and got stonewalled.
So, calm down first. Let's back up. So I received a text message from Wayne. He said, are you available to meet on Friday? I was not. So I said, no, I'm not. He said, are you available to meet over the weekend? I said, Wayne, if you could really just send us the contract and we can look at it. Okay, you read my personal messages at the last council meeting, I think. So, I was traveling.
We didn't have.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
No, I'm talking.
I
We
was
did not
traveling out of
have
town.
any contract. We didn't have anything written down.
I know.
We had nothing to write written
Thank you,
down.
Mr. Turnbull.
Mayor,
Both of you, please.
Okay.
yes.
I was traveling out of town.
I apologize. I apologize.
Thank you.
Please.
I was traveling
proceed.
out of town.
I'm sorry.
So I'm traveling out of town. Not that I owe you an explanation or anybody an explanation of where I'm going or what I'm doing. I simply couldn't meet. So I said, Wayne, if you can just send us the contracts, the contract information, it gives us a starting point. We've started the negotiations with, I've told you, you can do 3 different things here, okay? You can take it all the way back to a volunteer fire department if you want to. You can pay for the current level of service that we have now for the same price, or you can add the Sundays to it. I was then accused of being a liar on social media, that I wasn't really out of town, and that I canceled a meeting that had already been scheduled. Well, we had never scheduled a meeting. So I was out of town. Then, Mayor Pro Tem Orchard reached out to us again, and he said, could we meet? I said, I can't meet right now, but let's meet next Friday. He said, great. So before Mr. Orchard showed up, he texted us and said, by the way, I want to let you know that I'm not coming to discuss the contract. I can't discuss the contract.
You're referring to last Friday.
Correct. Then, so I thought we had a good conversation. And then on the city's website, our own mayor posts a hate-filled message in regards to a person from your council and a person from the fire department actually sitting down and talking as if there was something bad about it. So I'm confused as to whether or not you really want resolution to this problem, because it appears that if I can't meet, I'm wrong, and if I can meet, I'm wrong. Is it?
May I speak? Are you finished?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. Thank you. October 10th, a few days later, you say you can't meet. And you're saying, send you our ideas. As we said in an open session, we can't give you ideas. We can't convene. The two of, Scott Turnbull and Wayne Orchard and I were planning to sit down, and I've never been in a contract negotiation that is like that has any substance, where you're just throwing things back and forth, where, by the way, you have given us a litany of things that you won't do. It's
A litany?
Now I'm talking.
Okay, go ahead.
A litany of things that are non-negotiables. It's interesting because we made a good faith effort to meet with you, and whether or not you were out of town is irrelevant. That wasn't the message that was conveyed to us. The message that was conveyed to us is, here are your three options, take them or leave them. That was what was conveyed to us. We're trying to act in good faith. We expected to sit down with you, and so since we were not able to meet with you, that was October 10th. Then we had another meeting on the 24th, and by that time, still unwilling to meet. So I present a proposal which is based upon your response to me and my questioning about billing those in the unincorporated areas. And let's go back to the fundamental issue, because since you're giving us non-negotiables, that's fine. Okay, there are some things that we need to give you our non-negotiables, but I presented that plan based upon what you had said in the meeting. Why can't we bill those outside why can't we bill those outside of the city in the unincorporated areas? The issue is and always has been that the city of McLendon-Chisholm funds 90% of the fire department's budget. The other 10% comes from the county through a sales tax in the unincorporated area, whereby those in the unincorporated areas do not contribute to the funding of the fire department. What's interesting is, if you have data about the fundraising that you have been doing, which we had been encouraging you to do, then please provide that. But from what we've understood, there has been no effort to raise funds. So the issue is, how do we get those in the unincorporated areas to begin contributing? And the reason that was necessary is because the county commissioners, as I shared with them today, county commissioners made it clear to us that we should not depend on that $67,500. We need to start planning now for that money to go away. From my perspective, it doesn't make any sense to bifurcate those who are in the unincorporated areas and those in the city, and where those in the unincorporated areas, which it appears this is the direction this is heading, which really I think would be a monumental mistake. But it appears as though those in the unincorporated areas are going to be moving toward creating an ETJ, an emergency, or a ESD, sorry, thank you, an emergency services district. That doesn't make any sense to me. Let's just say that both of our populations are equal. There's 3,000 outside, 3,000 inside. That's 6,000 people. When we look at the statistics of communities, I mean, most communities don't start paying firefighters until you're at the 10,000 mark. Here we have something really valuable, I think, and what I'm trying to do is come up with a solution and work with those in the unincorporated areas. But instead, what we get is some flyer that goes out that is filled with misinformation, and to try and scare the people who are in the unincorporated areas and drive them out here for political purposes. And it's driving me, it really undermines the good faith efforts that we have taken. We did expect to sit down and talk with you. And when I hear people say, how can you bill someone
for services when their house just burned down or they lost a loved one, well, how does Rockwall EMS do it? And you're saying you can't budget on that. It's like fundraising. Well, Rockwall EMS does. CareFlight does. Hospitals do. And by the way, they don't bill insurance companies. Okay, so if you get a ride in Rockwall EMS, you're going to get a bill for around $1,000. If you get a ride in the CareFlight helicopter, you're going to get a bill for around $15,000 to $20,000. And by the way, the CareFlight thing, very few insurance companies pay for that. Now, what if someone dies? Does the CareFlight go, oh, well, I'm sorry, your loved one passed away, so we're not going to bill you? It's not un-American, which apparently some on social media believe. It is an idea that you're not willing to even entertain now because you've already talked to your membership, because we couldn't sit down and kind of talk through that issue, which was my expectation. And so now we are left with a lot of non-negotiables. So here's some non-negotiables for me. Since the issue is how do we get those involved in the unincorporated area of the fire district to begin contributing to their fire safety, since I presented a plan, you don't like it, you're not going to do it, so the fire department, we'd like to hear your plan. That would be one non-negotiable in that. The second non-negotiable is, since last year, the city council, when we met with you and Mr. Larkin, we had talked about an audit. And at that time, you said, that's fine. And you asked, well, who's going to pay for it? And I said, the city will. We will pay for the audit of the fire department. And you guys said, well, okay. So this year we budgeted in our budget so that the fire department could have an audit, so that your books are open, so that there's transparency. And so when our auditors reached out to you to meet with you, they received no help. And from what I understand, Mr. Orchard has informed us, our liaison with the fire department, that you guys are going to get your own auditor. So apparently you're going to pay for your own audit, and which makes no sense. So my non-negotiable is that you will take a 5-year audit so that the people of McLendon-Chisholm, the citizens, the city, can ensure that there's openness and transparency. So to me, those are the two non-negotiables for me. Members of council, are there non-negotiables that you might have?
Can I respond to that, Mr. Mayor? Can I respond to you?
Sure.
On a couple issues? So first off, I want to apologize. When you asked me about the medical billing, and my response was, why can't we? Apparently my sarcasm was not strong enough, and it was basically a rhetorical question hoping to lead you to understand why it's not a good idea. So I apologize that I misled you on that. But
why is it a bad idea?
Let me finish. The membership has voted. They do not wish to entertain that idea. Therefore, there is no point in discussing it. It's not going to be an option.
I've already said that I understand that. So let's
quit discussing it.
Fine, I just did, and I gave you my non-negotiable.
Okay.
So your job, our expectation for the fire department is to bring to us your solution on how we can start on-ramping those in the unincorporated area to begin paying for and contributing to their fire safety. This is for their benefit as much as ours. The last thing I would like to see those in the unincorporated area do is create an ESD, which basically separates us, and where the city may even just create our own fire department, which is to me crazy. And respectfully, and the thing about us is we don't always agree, especially Mr. Turnbull and I, but we don't always agree. The fact is, I'm not sure I get what the idea of separating what you were talking about. I don't like that idea. I don't think that the fire department should have to choose, well, we're going to use this fire truck on the city, but that fire truck for the unincorporated area. Why are we even talking that way?
I agree.
What I want to do, and what I've got on the agenda tonight as well, is to talk to those in the unincorporated areas and see if we can't come to some kind of mutual agreement. Hey, let's talk. But I'm at a loss at this point, because your response is, well, give us your paper, give us it in writing, we'll look at it, we'll vote on it, and then we'll give it back to you. And I just think there's not time for that. It takes more time to go back and forth with paper than it does to sit down and say, that's a stupid idea, let's move on. You can call my idea stupid, that's fine. I realize that I'm not the yeah, I know the time is. All right, so members of council, I need to give council members the opportunity to give you their non-negotiables. Councilman Turnbull, or wait a minute, Balkum, you're next in line. Sorry. What's your non-negotiable?
I just want an actual meeting to take place between three people. And I wanted to ask, but Pascal's not here, if the situation is to the point where you
Can't have three. The only reason that I'm in that group is
I
because you can't have three members of council.
I understand, but may I ask if you can give him, as Mayor Pro Tem, the responsibility, and that way you have two other council members. Can't do
No,
that?
it doesn't work
Okay,
that way. And
fine.
I did ask Pascal about that.
All right.
So, is that it?
Well,
What's your non-negotiable? Sorry.
I just want 5 days, 5 days, hammer it all out, actual documentation, and for them to come up with a contract as well, and, their non-negotiables or whatever, hash it out within 5 days, and that's my time frame right there.
So you send us the contract, and we'll hash it out, send it back to you.
I want you to contribute, because I want this to be.
Oh, we will.
I want it to be together,
Sure,
okay?
Sure.
I want it to be a win for you, a win for us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's my goal. So
Absolute.
5 days, 5 business days is what I'm thinking. Okay, that's what I would like to see. And then at that point, when you guys hash out the three people, with three of us, and Larkin, is it Larkin and you, then you go back to your membership, review the contract agreement, and then vote on it. And then we would vote at the next council meeting. Can we do this within 5 business days?
Well, I don't know if we can or not. For the first time, and as far as I know in the history of the department, we have to engage an attorney to work on the city contract. So that takes time. And so I don't know that you can magically wave a wand and say, in 5 days, we'll have this done. That's great. However, I have things to do. The attorney has things to do. Y'all have things to do. And so I think, is it something to work towards?
Can we just say by the end of the year that we get that contract nailed down?
Well, I would hope you would want to do that far before the end of the year.
Well, then give us a date. How many days?
You guys have got to come to us with a list of what you want. Put it on paper.
Okay, this is what I'm going to do.
We're talking about it. Just put it on paper and send it to me so that I can discuss it. I don't have to wait for a business meeting.
Okay, all
I
right.
can call a meeting and discuss it with the members next Tuesday.
Okay, thank
So
you.
But things will
would it
happen a
be-
lot faster other than trying to schedule around everybody's schedule. I am not, did you see how the conversation went between you and me versus me and Mr. Orchard? This is why I will deal with Mr. Orchard. Case in point.
Okay, so may I ask you guys this, would it be prudent to just go ahead and collect that information and then send it for him to review? And then, okay, so we need to make an end date, that's the issue. December.
Can you just give us your non-negotiables? Let's talk about contract non-negotiables.
My timeframe was 5 business days.
Time frame is 5 business days.
5 business.
All right, Councilman Turnbull.
Pass these out, please. Chief Jones, if somebody were to present you with a totally radical, different approach to resolving this, would your membership reconsider their non-negotiables?
At this point, I'm not surprised by anything, so All I can tell you is if you have something, please send it to me.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you a brief overlay right now.
Okay.
Council has not seen this, I just passed it out. I want to look at this, instead of doing it every year, I would like to do it for 3 years. And I know that you guys have put on your non-negotiables about scratching the 6-year plan and several other things that are included in my idea. But the goal of my plan is to have a taxing entity, and this is where the mayor and I disagree, in the unincorporated area that can contract with you. We can contract with you. The financial ability of the 2 contracts will allow you to pay your people more. It will allow you to provide benefits. It will allow you to buy equipment, possibly even man Station 2 the same way that you do Station 1. Now, what I would ask in return for that, as I said, first off, I want to do this, it's actually 33 months. It's to the end of our fiscal year 2020. We will pay you monthly, and I know that that's a non-starter, but for us to put in place any type of service level agreement, if we give you the money up front, how do we enforce it? That's the reason for the monthly payment, because we have to enforce it. Now, another item that I have is you have claimed micromanagement, and possibly that's true. So I'm going to ask for one thing, response time. We will work with you to come up with a response time that is doable. But yes, there are going to be penalties if you miss it. What that does for you is we say, we don't care. If you want to hire 15 people on the money that the contract is for, you can hire 15 people. If you want to pay one guy $100,000 a year, you pay him $100,000 a year. We don't care how you train. We don't care what you do. That's your job. You are the professionals. That is what you've told us, and we're taking you at your word. So it gets the micromanagement out. It gets you involved in setting the goals, but you're going to have to come back in to the table and say, okay, we will look at the 6-year plan, and the part of the 6-year plan that I'm looking at is your 2021 target of transitioning to the city. Now, don't shake your head, because I understand what you've already said. This contract gives you the option to transfer to the city if you choose, if your members so vote, or not to. But if you choose not to, it gives us 33 months to set up our own fire department. And then you have, again, or we don't have to set up our own fire department. We can either have 2 contracts, or we can have a contract. You can have a contract with your ESD. Everybody's happy. But if your non-negotiables are hard and fast, then I don't see how we're going to get a contract of any kind that's going to make anybody in this city happy. And frankly, I don't know about anybody else here, but when I was in business, my customers generally told me what they wanted me to do, and I provided it. I seldom went in and said, here's what I'll do, take it or leave it. That was never a good way to negotiate a contract. Now, one other thing, and I'm sure people will say I'm being petty, and I'm not. This. I don't know who did it, I don't care. It was ineffective in some ways. Others, we got a lot of people here, and I'm glad for that. But if you're going to be professional, and Bev, I know that you cringed on this, because out of the 5 times our city was named there, it was misspelled 4.
Including the website.
Terrible.
Okay, now, the other thing, this could have been used, as well as to bring people out, to indicate here, anywhere, donate to your fire department. Give a charitable donation to your fire department because it's tax deductible. Do you have it up?
Yes, but I'm not connected to the
Oh.
thingy.
Okay. Please, hook her up so that it can be seen. And this was not done to be derisive, to be funny, to be anything else. It's serious.
Is this still part of your contract item?
No, I just asked you about that.
Can you send me all that contract information and numbers and
I
all that?
will send you what the council agrees that we're going to present.
Okay, okay.
Because I don't speak for the council.
Sure, I understand.
This is an idea.
Okay.
What my question to you was, do you think your members will actually be flexible enough to look at a totally different approach to solving this problem?
I'm not going to speak for the members. I don't know.
Your opinion. I'm not asking you to speak for your opinion, I mean, for them.
Well, sounds-
What's your opinion? Do you think that there's any flexibility at all? Because if there isn't, there's no reason for me to send this to you.
Well, you're telling me, you're not asking me to speak for my members, but you're asking me what I think
I'm
they'll say?
asking for your opinion. If a member came up to you, I'll rephrase. If a member came up to you and said, Chief, what do you think about Mr. Turnbull's proposal? Should we consider renegotiation? What would you say?
Well, first we're going to have to get it on paper and see the numbers and how it would actually work. So,
Okay.
So
I guess what,
we're not, I mean, I could be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't know.
You have said there are 4 non-negotiables, and those 4 non-negotiables are in this contract. So unless
Yeah.
you think you would recommend to your members to reconsider their non-negotiables, this is a dead document. It does not need to go any further.
Well, the monthly payments is certainly a bone of contention.
I understand it's a bone of contention, but we can work on it.
Yeah.
On top of that, I mean, let's face it, you got $100,000 of our money to operate on.
Excuse me? What?
Yeah. You will have $100,000 left when this year's over. Herman, that's what you said on.
That's what you told us.
10-10.
That was before we,
You said reserve.
yeah.
We have not sold the other brush truck. We'll be lucky if we have $60,000 at the end of the year.
And did you,
The other is, we try to keep 100,000, we try to keep
I understand that you want to have a reserve.
in case we get a grant from the
did you use the word "our money"?
It came from the city, yes. I'm sorry.
So you,
I'm sorry. I used the royal
okay.
R
Okay.
when I referred to the city. I apologize. I will clarify that.
all right.
Mr. Turnbull, do you want me to go ahead and share and then?
I'm sorry, my computer's down. We're
Once
having,
again, Steinhagen, once again.
once again.
Was it something entertaining?
No, is
it's
it,
just- I'm
can it come up on these screens?
It can't, and I don't
Okay.
know why.
Can-
I don't know why.
10 o'clock.
can you show Chief
There's
Jones
a
what-
problem. What it is we took the initiative to set up a GoFundMe page, which we are going to transfer to the fire department to use social media to help raise money to support the unincorporated areas. You have commented that it's hard to raise money. And this is a social media way of doing it. And I'm pretty sure there are several people in this room who will help you to manage this and reach out to everybody that they reach out to anyway
Yeah.
to help raise money. And as I said, this is not being a smartass, pardon my language. It is dead serious. And if you'll look closely, you'll see that there are at least 2 people who have donated.
Well, I know the mayor was going to donate $10,000. Remember that?
For the 80.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And
But
I,
that was a while back. That was a while back. I understand.
no, and,
Well, just to,
yeah, if you took initiative and if you came back to me and you didn't.
Yeah.
Okay,
Case in point again, Wayne.
so we need to say what it is. It's, we named it Friends of the MCVFD. I've already donated, and as well as Scott Turnbull has donated. Anyway, but we wanted to give that as an opportunity for fundraising for you guys for the unincorporated area. And we
That's
also,
great.
also, I wanted to let you know, because since we were open the other ideas, so I wanted to let you know that I would plan on having a meeting with RCH to talk about volunteering monies to kind of like a utility project fund for the fire department. And that just happened today, and I didn't come up with the idea. Susan actually brought it to my attention because there is counties that have smaller cities that come together and they use their water utility to contribute funds for, to donate funds to the fire
Right.
department. 100% will
Right.
be going there. So anyways, that was one idea from me, and the other idea was, I don't have to do this, but because I've done a lot of research on the ESDs, I wanted to offer the unincorporated area to have an informational opportunity to come here and for us to let them know like the process of how an ESD gets done and just kind of go through a step-by-step process, and then also invite the county commissioner to kind of talk a little bit about that as well, to make them feel comfortable as well. And the third thing, I did reach out to High Point Ranch HOA. I think you were there at that meeting when we talked about the ETJ.
Right.
And we discussed it. That was our first point of contact about a, kind of like an assessment fee. Anyway, and then I reached out to them, I think it was like 4 weeks ago now, to check in to see if they have discussed it, and at the time they didn't. But we would be open to also another informational event to be happening here to explain how you can add an assessment fee to your normal dues and the process that would take, and that would be whatever fee that they decide to come up with. It could be, $100 or $25, depending on how the HOA would vote on it if they decide to go that route. So those are some of the ideas that I wanted to contribute to help out those in the unincorporated area.
Councilman Herron.
I don't think he's here.
Sorry, Turnbull. I was looking at his nameplate, sorry. Councilman Turnbull.
Mr. Jones, one more thing. When we spoke on October 10th, I asked you some questions about the ISO rating. And I bring this up because of the main highlighted item. The first item on this list was about homeowners insurance could triple. And when we spoke about it on the 10th, you pointed out that the 4/9 rating happened the survey was done in 2012. The rating was actually received in 2013. Is that correct?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
Okay, well, will you trust me, or I can dig the document
Well,
out?
that's fine. That's fine.
Since that time, we have gone from 0 people at the station to manned. Between the county and us, you've received a little over $1 million through 2017. Through the 2018 contract, it'll be about 1.4 million. Now, I was curious as to what that money had gotten us and why we wouldn't qualify for a higher rating. Now, you informed me of some things that I didn't know about how the dispatch is involved and what they have to do in meetings. But as I said, I was curious, so I called
Joe Ray Gonzalez.
ISO and Verisec is, or VRISC, however you want to pronounce it. And they sent us documents, which I know that you're aware of. I also know that they have been in contact with you, which is great, because I think what you've put together should result in the citizens getting a further discount on their insurance. And it was, the reason that I asked was to get this information so I would have more ideas about what type of questions would be asked. And I found out, not surprisingly, there was a lot of them I'd have no way of answering.
Sure, sure.
So it's in your hands, but I do really think that for the money that we've invested, and again, I'm using the royal we, everybody in the city, everybody in the county, in this fire department, that taking the time to fill out that questionnaire and see if they tell you you're within a couple of hundredths of a percentage point of moving to the next level and it's worth them coming out.
Yeah.
If they tell you you're still 7 points away, why bother? I get that.
And have you heard back from Mr. Gonzalez?
Here's the documents.
Okay.
As far as
So,
what he sent, I know that he sent you 14 questions in that email.
Right.
I have another email that had a form included in it.
right, right.
Yes, the reason that I didn't go through just having him send the email, I wanted the survey that they used to get a broader
Yeah.
amount of information for myself. It's, if they're okay with you filling out the form to get the information, go for it.
Councilman,
I mean, that's
I have a
fine.
question. I'm trying to, I have a
I
question.
think I'm going to answer your question.
Well, my question is, are you saying that we got our ISO rating when we were an all-volunteer department?
Yes, we did.
Well, then how could,
Okay.
well, then,
It's-
if we
it's-
went back to an all-volunteer department, how would it
It's-
impact the homeowner's insurance?
No,
If the ISO rating is the issue?
if you don't have.
Did you create this?
I'll answer the question again.
No, did you create this?
No.
Okay, then.
I don't know who created it, but what I think they were referring to is if y'all didn't sign a service contract with a fire department, you had no fire service, you would automatically go to a 10.
But if you're under contract with the county,
That would not service this area, no.
it wouldn't?
No, not if you don't sign if you don't sign a contract with the fire department. The only thing the county is contracting for is the unincorporated area, not your city.
Does your bylaws not require that you service the fire district?
Well, I tell you,
And by the way, I have never intimated that we wouldn't pay you. I'm just asking a simple question.
yeah, so you would want us to provide fire service for free?
That is,
Well, I'm just
that you would
asking
not be providing it for free, you'd be getting, but, I mean, it's.
You're saying if you
I'm
didn't
not
sign a
even
contract.
going there, I'm just
Okay.
saying,
Let me get back to the ISO rating.
Yeah.
I did talk to Mr. Gonzalez.
Right.
And I did answer the questions on the survey. We barely made a 4 when we did make a 4. I was involved in that
Right.
survey. And so his response to me was, no, you're not going to make it to a 3. Millions and millions and millions of dollars of water infrastructure, fire station, apparatus. You know, I don't know how much he explained to you, but there's 300 points of consideration. And it's highly complex. Now, you can talk to him, but his response to me is, it's not quite time for y'all to get a reevaluation yet. You need to do some more work. And his words were, unless you've spent millions of dollars on the water system and millions of dollars on a fire station, an apparatus, no, you're not going to move closer to a 3. Have we picked up some points? We possibly have. Is it enough to move us a little bit? Probably, but it doesn't matter whether you're
Yeah, it
a little
doesn't
bit-
matter if you're at the
Yeah,
front of the
3.9
class or the
is a
bottom
4.
of the class, you
Yeah,
passed.
Right, so,
Yes.
and I appreciate you looking into it, because it is something that, unless you ask for it, they used to only evaluate you every 15 years.
Right.
And that's why we moved so far from a 7 to a 4, was because nobody had requested a reevaluation.
Okay. The one thing about this is, to me, it was fear-mongering to throw that out there that your insurance could triple. I don't know where they got that amount. I know that when you got the 4 rating, I don't think anybody here is going to tell you that their home insurance was reduced by 66%.
Okay?
I mean, it,
Again, this is not something that Chief Jones put
I
together.
understand.
so-
Right.
And I
Right.
appreciate
I'm
you
not saying
talking
that
about
you
it, but
did
I'd
this.
like to get to Mr. Woodham's
Okay?
contract issue.
Non-negotiables. Are all of you, wait a minute, are all of yours done?
Yes.
Mr. Woodham?
In the interest of time, I'll be quick. I don't know why you're not negotiating with me. I'm the lovable one. Everybody loves me.
You're armed.
And I don't know you well enough to say that I wouldn't.
Hey, I'm willing to do anything. I'll sit in the sauna with you with a fifth of vodka until we get it knocked out. I don't even drink. But the only thing I want you to know is, I hope you're a fireman like myself. I'm not a fireman, but we have a servant's heart. And I want you to remember that, because you have a culpability along with us to get this completed. Now, you say you have these, and I'm speaking to the members back there also, you say you have these non-negotiables, but in reality, everything should be open. Everything's open to me. I don't give a damn, because I don't live my life in fear. I had enough things happen to me where I'm ready for my impending death. I'm prayed up. The only thing I ask you is to remember that you have a servant's heart, and you come in good faith, and let's get this shit worked out. It's not that hard.
I absolutely agree with that.
So I like about Mr. Willen, he doesn't mix words.
So you have no non-negotiables?
Hey, I don't give a shit what you do. As long as you're a freaking fire department and you're out there, I'm not gonna bother you at all. Now, I will tell you this, I do think the thing's a little unbalanced and you're a little high on your price, but hey, let's hammer it out. Now, for everybody out there, if you were expecting some results tonight, it was never going to happen. This is a horrible place to try and negotiate. People are trying to save face, and y'all are behind him, giving him power, and we're up here, and it just doesn't work that way in real life. So let's just remember that, and let's leave here, and let's not anybody have hard feelings. Let's go forward, and let's remember that we're going to get this done. I don't want people leaving here thinking, oh my God, my house is going to burn down. No, it's not. Your house ain't going to burn down. We're going to have a contract. Everybody, let's all be a big room of Fonzies and just be cool. It's okay.
Dilly dilly.
Promise.
Dilly
It's
dilly.
okay.
Thank you, Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem. You have the floor.
Wow, I've never seen that side of them. Who here is from the unincorporated area? Not you. Okay. First of all, thank you for coming out.
No, sir. No, sir. Excuse me, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir, I'm sorry.
Look, we're gonna end up. Can we talk?
I'm already
afterwards?
going long, and
Can
I
we talk
promised him
afterwards?
out by 10, so.
Can we talk afterwards? Okay, so after,
Pro Tem Orchard.
Peter, we'll talk after.
okay, so I just want to let you, citizens, again, all of you, I appreciate you coming out, but I do want to address those that have come out. Guys, we're trying to get this all taken care of. Just have some faith in the department and this council to get it resolved.
Okay, I would like, I don't think Councilman Turnbull, are you against us? Or I'd like to talk about having some kind of meeting with those in the unincorporated area as well, just to talk through, their concerns, the ESD issue, what we could do cooperatively.
So you like the idea about having an informational event?
Well, that's how, I put that on the agenda,
Okay, well,
didn't I?
So, we just need to pick a date, I guess, and see if they would come.
Yeah, is there any objection to it? Because are you, there's no objection? Oh, wow. Oh, you had some vodka. Okay, great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with that then.
Yeah.
And then on the citizen survey, we're done. Just so you know, we're not going anymore. What I'd like to ask the council is permission for 3 of us, and let's assign who they are. Obviously, I need to be one of them. 2 other people to do the survey. Adrian, I see pointing, and who? Turnbull. Are y'all okay with the
For
3 of
the
us?
3 days.
Creating that survey?
3 days, you get-
I can do it in less than that time, but,
I can
this is for the survey?
Survey, citizen survey. The
Yes.
3 of us hash it out. We're gonna nail it out. We're gonna get her done. Okay?
All right.
So we're all good with that? Okay. And is there anything that's like, the world will end if we didn't
Yes.
talk about it? Okay,
There-
of course, Councilman Turnbull.
Oh, hush. There is one thing
Yep.
I would like to add. Want to make a motion to the council. It's about the IT service.
Oh,
Yeah, that's neat.
And what I want to do is I want to motion that we authorize the mayor to sign a contract when it's presented to us with our IT provider, provided that the funds to be expended do not exceed that we have already budgeted. I so move.
Councilman Turnbull has a motion to allow the mayor to sign a contract with this IT company, so long as the terms do not exceed the budgeted amount. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Woodham seconds. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the motion,
Yes.
go ahead, sorry.
We'll talk about from
My computer guy.
with my computer guy, the different plans that he had.
It will
talked about-
encompass that. There are additional services that we've discussed that.
Can you please refrain from speaking in the
that
back,
will-
please?
That
Thank you.
will, it's not going to raise it much. He mentioned them all here about the
Well,
addition.
it has all this other, right.
Right.
But so
And
it'd be the plans plus
plus,
other things that they talked about.
yeah, some additional security. There'll be remapping of drives, stuff like that will come up, but it will come in under budget. If not, then it'll have to come in front of the council. But if we can hammer this out, and I've been trying to get with him for 3 weeks to actually get what we talked about in our meeting.
Well, I was good with that proposal that he laid out, so I'll just make
Okay.
sure that that's who we're talking
It'll
about.
be that and enhancement.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, the motion passes by unanimous consent without objection. Is there any other business that we need to attend to? Yes, Councilmember Balcom, go ahead.
Okay, well, one thing,
Make it
okay, because
quick.
I did share the idea about approaching RCH as a idea of, for them to consider adding a voluntarial monies to their billing. Do I need to do something here with the city council for me to be able to do that?
No, I
Because
don't think so.
It has to do with the fact that the RCH has a contract with us, so
Now, are these going to be those in the city?
I'm going to just propose options to see what they would even entertain.
So would it include those who are in the unincorporated areas? I mean, the people in the city
I
are
don't know.
taxed for it already, so.
Yes, I do understand that, but this is kind of like, you know how you donate monies to a charity?
Yeah.
Or a special project?
Sure.
Because I've seen it done, and I had it written down where there was another city that just did like special projects, and they raised money for like, I think it was like a brush truck or something like that. And then they announced it, like, we made the money, now this is the next project.
Point of order. Does RCH go all the way out to High Point Ranch and Lake Estates and stuff? Is that RCH out there? Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that
Okay.
she's checking.
Right,
The right
but-
part, not Blackwater. Okay.
Right.
Blackland. All right.
Yeah,
Okay. Right, so there's some different areas. So yeah, as a fat gathering mission, I think that's great. That didn't, you know,
well, would that change up, our contract agreements or something? Is that gonna affect us?
I think anything like that would just, because here's the one thing is that we got to look at going into, you know, next year. So if something gets put in place, I don't think it's gonna be before January 1st. And so that would just go on top of what is already there. Then they can factor that in along with ourselves going into next year.
Okay. Because if it's brought up as the issue, if RCH says, I like the idea, but we want to, you know, possibly charge a fee or something for administrative or anything, okay, all right. Well, then
They could propose, I don't, that kind of defeats the
I
the whole
know.
purpose. So, but yeah, do your
I'll try,
fact, do
okay.
your fact finding.
Thank you.
Can I get clarity? What is the next steps with the fire department? Are we meeting with them, or are we just throwing them written stuff?
Okay,
So
I
the
thought,
next steps for what the chief wants is, based off of his membership, is for us to present,
Written.
yes,
Right.
written to him.
All right, is there any other discussion?
We'll continue working.
Thank you, Councilmember Balcom. I mean, Councilmember, you've done an amazing job just going above and beyond, so appreciate everything you've done. Is there anything other
Don't
discussion?
let him steal your ideas.
Councilmember Turnbull, you have the floor for a motion.
oh, we needed to get them to agree about that thing.
What?
About the funding thing, the GoFundMe page,
We'll talk.
sorry.
What about it? We got it.
Okay.
Councilmember Turnbull.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Is there a second? Motion carries by unanimous consent without objection. This meeting is adjourned.